Hello and welcome to My Mum Said I Could Watch It with the static stuff because that was the that worked better when I was there. Um, Hi. So this is the film Static, 1985. I would have been 1986. I'd have seen this. This one I got definitely, I think, from a Vestron Video, one of our very first video rentals. Also, the first time I felt ripped off. Video cover itself was two reptilian V style aliens with a desert background. This turned out to be two masks worn by two not even teenage, preteens, tweenies in the film. There are no monsters. There's the metaphysics of it is purely metaphorical. And I just remember the general sense of disappointment. Mayhew, I just really can't. Um, Premise of Static. Kevin Gordon plays a young man who works in a factory making crosses and loses his job by stealing faulty ones. It transpires this is a small town, kind of a Bible Belt area in Texas, where he's been living all of his life. While a bit of a techno, not exactly a genius, he's got his own soldering iron, but that seems to be the level here, in the town that he lives in, uh, getting by with the sort of Bible Belt. I don't know much about the area, blue collar kind of sentiment and a lot of spirituality. In the midst of this, the rock and roll act, as shown in the video behind me, returns to the town to sort of confuse and baffle, create a sort of Betty and Veronica love triangle between him, her, and the waitress in the cafeteria. Turns out Kevin's character is been building a invention which should allow him to communicate with heaven directly. Unfortunately, when he reveals this to his nearest and dearest, all they see is static. So is he truly delusional? Has he not been able to get past the grief of losing his parents? Who can really say? Well, we can. He's not been able to get past the grief. However, the denouement as he's trying to get this device more publicly seen involves a massive pensioner bus hijacking that is absolutely adorable and horrific at the same time. Um, a dark comedy for modern times, I believe, is the cliche statement that I've seen ever since Edinburgh and someone dressed up as a cucumber saying that they jumped out of a lift in the square mile. Um, is it worth seeing? Yes. Yes, it is. Not too emphatically. It's a great piece of showing a weird, in that vein, it is not as strong as Repo Man and Slackers. It still is young men making a film. And what I realize now, watching it, is how it contrasts with the 20 something wild stallions of today. What some people would consider longeurs, they are able to bring up that innocence, or rather non-technical, rather genuine sense of introspection in their characters. The long shots aren't there just to pad the time. Yes, there's a certain level of synth, and there's a certain level of that 20 something ennui, but it's communicated. It's not emboldened. It's very much a film about show not tell. You learn the exposition of the past, but you are watching their emotions in the presence. And it really stood out because now there would just be an absolute verbosity, the post Smith verbiage train, rather than letting situations just stand as they are, where people are awkward, people are shy, people are defensive, and people are talking about their feelings while not. And not in a circuitous way, just pausing and waiting for a response. Key to this is his brother-in-law, his brothers. As far as I can figure out, again, everyone is such a close-knit community that would have completely gone past me. One of the Bible Belt preachers has a Korean wife, and North and South are the two boys I mentioned who he buys the reptile masks for. All of that, albeit possibly, I'll say in Defense, maybe because I came from a mixed family myself, I wouldn't have recognized that as a thing. But Korea, North and South, definitely just went. And they have that survivalist. They're all walking around in radiation suits, practicing for the big one. Ultimately, whatever is going on in Kevin's head, it's not just come out of nowhere. It's not just come out of the desperation of having lost both his parents. It's come from a culture and a community around him that seems to be looking at apocalypse or heaven all the time. These need to collect these defunct crosses show you both this how spirituality has been materialized in this town and in this community and monetized. Yet the fact that they always have to be faulty ones shows that there is something absolutely askewed from it. The ending itself is quite just really shocking in that it's for me again it's the Ethan Cohenness of it all. When he hijacks this bus and the pensioners basically help this nice young man. The bus driver's not going to argue with him because he has a gun, but at no point is there any sense of threat from him because he has a gun. I think that's pretty obvious. It's just the use of the military and the fact that, oof, you know what? It's a spoiler alert. Everyone dies. It really, really hit me this time. First time I watched it, I was 10. I remember just being annoyed because there were no actual aliens. Yeah, I believed that he had created a device. And the story wasn't about a young man's grief. The story was about trying to convince them to see it as he saw. In many ways, it's a diametric to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, rather than a man who's dealing with a midlife crisis and divorce. You have a young boy, really, to me now as a man pushing 50, and who has experienced the loss of a parent. I can see how a young man would go this way, particularly within the setting itself. It's kind of liberating that we have a female point of view who comes in and out of it. And yes, there is an absolute Bechdel fail where the two girls basically talk about him. It is a film that stands as a historical piece, I would say, in that student graduate milieu, as I said before, of Slackers and a few others of the time, the indie feature of the time before they got MTV'd. I wouldn't say it's one to desperately seek out, but I do say that if you're looking at culture and religion and how youth is represented, this is going to be one of the more authentic films you see from that period. And I would certainly say that it is a Sunday matinee movie. Um, Afterwards, have some chips. So that's me. This is Static, and I've got to say, just in closing, they even had the Dare doing "This Is the Day" right at the intro of it, which is, the starter for 10, pretty good. So yes, Sunday matinee movie. I think there's a lot to learn about the youth of today from this. Currently, there's a lot of talk about the Netflix series Adolescence. I haven't seen it myself. Seeing the presence. When you look at how people can be vulnerable, people can be lost. That's nothing new. I don't think that's to do with the technology today. I think that's more to do with the communities around them. And this very much informs that. So until next time, keep them crossed. And I can subscribe. Yellow Yodel.